you would know because you.
Hold on, let's not even get to. Oh, he's a Caucasian, so how could he? This is an African thing, so how could the Caucasian be? Let's get into that too because that's
Listen, I don't like you into that, but I will. I can trace my ancestry back to Egypt. A very specific people that I name in Egypt in ancient times. If you look at a map, you will see that Egypt is in Africa, and that there was in fact a coalition between African Egyptians and my family that is from Eastern Europe, Transylvania in particular. If you go to the Egyptian shrine in Mount Sinai, you'll see it's half Sumerian and half Egyptian. Sumer is a culture that emerged out of Transylvania, and the Sumerian language is a dialect of Chalderesh, which is the 10,000-year-old language of the region around the Black Sea. So there's a connection there. It's a little hard for people to put it together because it's not taught in school. And yes, I don't look African, but I'm not sure that what you look like really is a valid correlation to what you know and what you understand. For whatever reasons, think I should belong or not, think I can understand or not, the good people in Ode Ramo had enough faith in me and my sincerity to do a lot of teaching, incredible amount of teaching. And my only agenda is to share what I learned from them. Now, we can argue that I understood it or didn't understand it or not presenting it accurately. That's fine. We can have those conversations. We can disagree and we can still be friends. But just to attack me and my character and who I am and who you think I am without any real conversation about the content of what I'm talking about, to me is just a waste of time. It really plays into the whole notion, if you don't agree with me, you're my enemy, and I'm going to make you agree with me by bullying you into, I get threats all the time. It's really tiresome. We can do better than that as a human species, I believe. So what's the value of being connected to Egypt in terms of Ifa? Yoruba language is 30% Coptic. That's the Egyptian language prior to Arabic, all right? The other 30% is Hebrew, which is actually Ge'ez, which is the liturgical language of Ethiopia. If you go to Egypt, every one of the temples there has an inscription at the entrance saying, "This temple faces the south in honor of our ancestors." If you go south of Egypt, what you do is run into Ethiopia. Egypt has 70 pyramids. Ethiopia has 700 pyramids. Clearly, the origins of African culture Egyptian culture in older African culture. Also, Nigeria, which has got a large number of different ethnic groups. One of those groups is called the Igbo people. And the Igbo people, thousands of years ago, built both stone pyramids and stupas, which is a spherical shaped meditation space that's very popular in India, but they were also popular in what we now call Nigeria. And so you might ask the question, well, how come I've never seen them? The reason I've never seen them is when the British colonized Nigeria, they went around to all the stone pyramids in Nigeria and blew them up with dynamite. And they won't even tell you where the remnants of those pyramids are located. It was a deliberate attempt to suppress an ancient form of wisdom. All right. So the last 30% of the Yoruba language is local African dialects, Kwa, among others. So my point is, you don't have a culture with 30% of the same language without there being some deep connection between those two cultures. So I maintain there's a deep connection between Ifa and Egyptian theology. I also believe that the oldest form of understanding what Ifa calls Odu Ifa comes from the Emerald Tablets. The Emerald Tablets are 16 metaphysical principles that are at the foundation of alchemy. Those principles, if you study them, are exactly the same as the principles of Odu. We went over those principles last time I spoke. You can go review that. You can look up the Emerald Tablets and you can find confirmation. You don't have to take my word for it. When you read through the Emerald tablets, you'll say, oh, there's only 14 principles, not 16. Now, listen, occult metaphysical folks like to hide things. So if you look at the 14 principles of the Emerald Tablets, you'll notice that the last two are double. So 14, 15, 16. There's 16 principles, exactly the same. Those principles are coded into the Kabbalah, which is the Jewish metaphysical tradition. They're based on the tree of life. The tree of life, you will say, well, it has 10 stations, not 8. No, the last 3 are 1. So it's 8 stations or 16. They're virtually identical. So the metaphysical principles in virtually every culture throughout the Middle East and Africa is based on what I believe to be an older pre-flood culture that we for sure don't have a lot of information about, but it influenced diverse cultures throughout the continent, and that to really understand who we are as a species, we have no choice but to go to Africa to listen to learn. Now, you can think that I shouldn't have the right to do that, and I certainly, that's your opinion. We cannot talk, we cannot pray together, and we don't have to interact, and we can still be friends as far as I'm concerned. But for me, studying Ifa is a way of honoring my Eastern European ancestors. Those ancestors have said so, and here's the final thing that I want to say about all that. My ancestors, I'm in addition to being an Ifa priest, I'm initiated into the dragon tradition of the royal lineage of the dragon families of Transylvania, which is the oldest monarchy in Europe. My family name is Fenius, which in Hungarian means bringer of light. Bringer of light is the same as has the same function in Hungarian culture as Ifa does in Yoruba culture, and that the priestly responsibilities of my extended family was to sit in a circle around a stone above an underground waterway and say prayers into the stone, which were then taken into the water and spread throughout the earth to fertilize the land. All right. So on my second trip to Africa, my Baba, Ibaye, Araba, Adesanya Awoyade, he said, I want to show you something. So he drove me to Ile Ife, and there I saw 16 priests sitting in a circle around the stone, praying into the stone. The exact same thing that my ancestors did. The only difference is they were speaking Yoruba and my ancestors spoke Calderesh. So, we can talk about difference, but ultimately it's differences without a distinction. Our ancient ancestors, before we got so brainwashed and manipulated and taught to fight each other, before those days, people use their higher consciousness, their higher selves, their critical thinking to study the world they lived in. And if they studied it correctly, there's no mystery or accident that they all came to the same conclusion, which is, in fact, what I believe they did. Now, most of the older traditions have been lost or inaccurately translated. Much of the work that I do is around language analysis. Ifa is based on liturgical Ifa is based on creating metaphysical words by taking a sentence, removing the vowels, and shortening it into one word. It's called an illusion. And when you figure out what the sentence is, it's a totally 100% accurate translation of the meaning of the concept. So, a man named Jonathan Crothers in about 1890 wrote the first English Yoruba dictionary. He was an Episcopalian priest. He took all the African words and translated them based on biblical concepts that do not match the meaning of the words at all. So we've been indoctrinated and infused with false ideas that then color how we understand what we think we believe and are in stark contradiction to the teachings of the Prophet Arumi. I'll give but one example. I think I probably gave it last week, but it's such a clear example. There's a liturgical word called Ifayabale, which is the word used to describe an Ogboni ritual in which men and women discuss gender differences. The word Ifa Yabale, clearly from the Elysian Ifa, Ifa, yeah, the Ifa Baba Ile, meaning the wisdom of the fathers and the mothers of earth. Okay, pretty clear.